Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mission Dharma. I'd like to invite everybody to turn on their camera just to say hello to each other, just to give us the best advantage of this virtual version of Sangha, of community. And that's your
Hi, everybody. This is Charlie and Elsa from Berkeley.
Mary, welcome back. Mary, from your month long. So good to see you.
Nice to you.
You got that retiree look.
How is she retired?
Yeah.
Big
Hi
love
from
from
Pacifica.
Nashville.
Hi, Nashville.
Nashville.
Hello from Pacifica.
Hello, Pacifica.
Hello from Regina, Saskatchewan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bunch of
Hi,
Reginians.
Victoria, Canada.
Hello, Victoria.
Probably not unmuted.
Go from its kitchen table.
Hi from Maryland.
Hi, Maryland.
Hello from Jackson Hole.
Jackson Hill. Anyway, happy to see all of you. Happy to welcome Mary back, who is otherwise known as Mission Dharma tonight, who's just returned from a month-long retreat at Spirit Rock. So we have to be very gentle with her tonight. Just thinking of sitting for 1 month. I've had the great good fortune of having long practice periods in my past, not recently, but in reflecting on the thought of sitting for a month and nurturing what we will be able to nurture tonight for just this time, still an encouragement to turn our life into a month long, and then another month, a month-long immersion in the life of the living present. That's what happens. Your life gets very much oriented toward just the simple reality of the present moment. And we make all kinds of excuses why we can't live that way. When in reality, our life is just a series of successive, unfolding present moments. And we can either complicate that, elaborate on it, the word papancha, proliferation, complication, elaboration. We can either complicate our lives. We have a moment-to-moment choice, you could say, or we can remember that our life in reality is pretty simple. In reality, the idea of our life and the idea of our world is very complicated, very complex. But the living reality is just us together tonight. And if we could consider this the beginning of our first month of living simply, I don't necessarily mean not doing anything. I mean living with the understanding that this is the only moment there is. The last one has gone. The next one remains in the realm of dreams. There's only this. That's how it's always been. That's how it always will be. There is only a living present. There, of course, is an imaginary past and future, which is useful to think about every now and then when it's needed. But even that, past and future, arise as presently arising memories and plans, all happening right here, very simply. So I'm going to use Mary's month-long as a reminder to immerse myself in the retreat, not the physical retreat, but the retreat from the obsession with busyness, the obsession with complications, the obsession with imagining that my life is complicated. Nobody's life is complicated. Only the story of our life is complicated. So let's see if we can, don't believe me, just experiment with that tonight as we sit and consider this the opportunity to do nothing else tonight other than both appreciate and nurture this moment-to-moment unfolding. Notice what happens when you just let go of past for a moment, or just notice a past thought. Let go of future, or notice a future thought. Notice the experience of your sitting body right now. Notice the experience of your heart, your tender heart, your mood. That's it. No need to, in this immediacy, no need to figure anything out. It's meant to be experienced. You don't have to refer to your memory. It's not historical. It's very immediate. You don't have to plan anything tonight. And if you do notice the mind planning, treat it as planning. Try not to feed the dream of future. Notice just the momentariness of planning. So I think the best way to anchor ourselves to the simple unfolding present is to, because we are so habituated to going out, it's helpful to close our eyes and have, at least during our formal practice, a sense of seclusion. So whatever position you need to get in to be able to let your body stop all its activity, let your mind begin to settle into your body, making sure that you're unmuted. That you're muted. Excuse. That you are. Computer needs to be on mute, please. And notice how the outer silence begins to resonate with the inner silence, the silence that is the awareness, the consciousness that lives in you. That knowing mind, what the Ajahn Chah calls Buddho, knowing. So we start with that ultimate fact that we're here and aware. And we let our body come into an alignment with the presentness of our mind. We let our mind come into the presence of our body. Our body is always actually here. Bringing mind or attention together with body until we cannot find any dividing line between awareness and body. Body is aware, awareness is body. And naturally we begin to feel all that is felt when our attention is in the same location as the body. We feel a settling, a stilling. We feel a quality of aliveness. So intimate that the idea of our body melts away, and there's just this feeling of the wordless living experience. As our mind and body come together in harmony, in oneness, we notice that there's a gentle stilling, and that gentle stilling makes more obvious the body's experience of its own breathing. We let ourselves feel the support of our body breathing as an anchor to this living, unfolding now. With each in-breath, we release the trance of time. With each out-breath, we release past and future. And with that emptying, we can feel ourselves more fully full here. Just this breath, just this moment. Our primary anchor is being aware. That's a given, a place to return to. But we support that ever-present wakefulness and clarity with the gentle movements of the breath, our second anchor. Then we graciously welcome other experiences that become stronger than the breath as a second anchor or support. We're still resting in the quality of being aware. And we graciously receive sounds in awareness, graciously experience other sensations, graciously experience moods, thoughts, images. We rely on the stability of being aware, supported when nothing else is predominant, supported by the breath, supported by the sitting body, which reminds us that we're here. We don't let our attention get too far away from our body. Let it call us here. Without this body, no awareness. When we're aware, we feel our body. Just this moment. Just this breath or whatever is predominant. Being aware. Relaxing into being aware. And then noticing how effortlessly the breathing is known in awareness as a support. Just this moment. because we are conditioned by past circumstances and habits, even though our intention is to remain anchored, conscious in the living present. Thoughts arise that it's possible to notice as they arise, but sometimes thoughts arise and mindfulness does not rise up to notice them. And we may just start drifting, get lost in thought. And eventually, mindfulness returns. And so when you realize that you've been lost in thought, recognize that as a moment of mindfulness re-arising, an opportunity to take refuge again in being aware, supported by the body and the anchor of the breath. Nothing more than that, no judgment. It's just a condition, not personal. Just this moment of awakening, just this breath. As your mind or attention comes together with your body, it's likely to give rise to some measure of tranquility. And if tranquility is not matched with energy, we tend to experience sinking mind or dullness. You may need at some point to refresh yourself, arouse a little energy, and begin again. Feel free to very mindfully refresh your posture. Sense the effortlessness of being aware. And then let your mind, your attention receive actively with interest the texture of each arising breath or the texture of the sitting body sitting. Just this moment. Of course, if you have lots of energy and low tranquility, you're likely to feel restless. Mindfully acknowledging that and then feeling free to soften, let your attention be wide and welcoming. Soften mind, soften body. Allow the natural peace and ease to settle in. Just this moment. wonderful to sit with you. I have to say that being together was during the sitting a very fertile and creative atmosphere. As much as I wanted to just dwell in the simple unfolding of the present moment, my mind was creating little dharmets. So some of it will leak out during our time together this evening, but it was kind of fun anyway. Before I get into sharing any stray thoughts that I might have, any dharmets, I'd really love to hear from you, any questions that you might have about your practice this evening, anything about the instructions that were offered, anything you'd like me to comment on. And as usual, we use the raised hand function under the reactions part of most people's software. So whoever would like to begin, if you have any question, comment, feel free. And a reminder, as I usually invite questions, that your comment or question will likely be of some use to someone else. So it's part of the dana, the generosity of showing up. Any? Okay.
I guess I have a question, Howie.
Please, Misha.
Thanks. So I started a new spiritual practice. I call it the Paperwork Guru. So I committed to 3 days a week for 3-hour sessions, sitting down at my table and spreading out an altar cloth and, putting on the next piece of whatever, the difficult things that I tend to put off because it's too anxiety provoking. And the first sit went swimmingly. I stayed with my structure and, 5 minutes of breath meditation, 45 minutes of practice, 10-minute discipline break, step away from the table. And then, of course, the old patterns start showing up a lot. And what I've noticed is that now that I'm, a week and a half into this, something like that, my overall pattern of stress is up. So I'm wondering if it's skillful to keep trying to practice at that level of intensity. Maybe I need to titrate it back a little bit.
Sounds wise. I'd say don't do anything with intensity, because we tend to associate intensity with tensing, tensity, with stressing. So in general, I'd like to incline toward fullness, but not intensity. And then not to get too cute about it, but in general, if you're doing a practice period, if it's a paperwork practice period, any practice period that has at its core the continuity of attention and insight, that of course you're absorbed in paperwork sometimes, and so you wouldn't be expected to have continuity of mindfulness. You'd be absorbed. But when you come up for air and you notice that there's some kind of stress, what does one do? One turns one's attention to that feeling of stress. We don't make a whole story about how my stress level is. I don't want to invalidate what you're saying, but we don't want to create a whole story about how my stress level is increasing. We want to know that stress in the moment is a is a dynamic, changing condition. Let me see what that's like, and then see what happens to it when it mixes with attention. My hunch is if you mix that feeling of stress with attention, it will pacify it. Not that you pay attention to it in order to pacify it, but nevertheless, you don't want to make it a problem that needs to be solved. You want to just intuitively respond to it, intuitively respond. And likely you will naturally find some way of doing what you're doing with more balance and maybe less intensity and more fullness.
Thanks, that's helpful. Yeah, I think the first practice period was very intentional about mindfulness, right? And attending to what's arising and pausing, taking sacred pauses, you know,
Yes.
even if it wasn't a break time yet. And I'll need some time to reflect. I suspect that what's happened is that it's the focus has unconsciously shifted toward productivity rather than attention.
And all that's good as long as it's balanced with ease, with whatever it is that balances it, balances the intent, the tension that builds, the stress that builds. So good luck.
Thank you.
Keep checking in. Anyone else? Okay, Isaac, please.
I've never heard of paperwork practice. What is that?
It's well, I can't really speak for Misha, but I made the assumption that paperwork practice is going through all those things that have been put off that pile up and create a higher level of stress that when attended to, whatever we call it, the dukkha that ends dukkha, the challenge of actually doing it actually in the long run reduces our stress. But meanwhile, there is the process itself, and so that can sometimes give rise to stress. So we just notice it. So that means, although whatever the paperwork that hasn't been attended to, I imagine, among other things.
Sounds like an excellent practice. I need to do that too.
Yeah, really good practice. And that just a reminder just to bring attention to anything in your life that is that has been left on the back burner, because it will intrude and cause stress. And I think that there is a seduction. This is not what I plan to talk about, but there's a seduction in putting things off. There's a little pleasure that arises from saying, not now. And that pleasure seduces us into actually creating a longer term stress problem. So I really appreciate Misha going for it and turning toward what may have built up as a problem to solve. Anyone else before we shift gears, do our little transition? Okay. Might, as we sit here in the silence, you might want to just tune into the state of your mind, state of your body. You might notice the environment around you after your mind has been a little bit more free of its usual preoccupations. This, what I feel like the miraculous hiding in plain view secret of immediacy No place that we can go to can improve on this. So, Mary, I think this might be a good time to make any announcements that you might have,
Sure.
and then I'll give a little Dharma.
All right, sounds good. So basically, I just the only thing I need to mention is Donna, as Howie mentioned at the beginning of the sit. I've for the last month I've stepped out of the marketplace and into this really beautiful field of Donna. And there were times I really just had this deep, deep appreciation of our good fortune in having access to these teachers who freely and lovingly, share their wisdom and their deep experience. And, we have access to that every Tuesday night, with Howie and other teachers. And so I, feel inspired, rejoice in our good fortune that we have access to this. And I'll put the Donna information in the chat box, and thank you in advance for your generosity.
Thanks, Mary.
Mhm.
I think I don't know if maybe I thought we had this conversation, but we probably didn't. But I just want to announce that there will be a half-day retreat on the way I worked it out. It should be April 30th, whatever the day that is. April 30th. So put that on your calendars for a half day where we can marinate a little bit longer together and this experience of the living Dharma. That kind of leads me to, well, maybe we should take a few minute stretch break and then I'll save it. And Donna break, etc. And just maybe 2.5, 3 minutes, and then we'll continue. So please stay with it. Really nice to see all your faces. Thanks for staying with the evening. Oh, that's a Friday. April 30th is a Friday, so that date will have to change. That's funny. Anyway, I also wanted to welcome tonight several people who sat with me over the weekend in person in Phoenix, and just say how much I was enriched by being with you, those of you who were there, and how nice it was to meet in person. And it's also, I would say, equally nice to be here with all of you here tonight. And I realize one of the things I was thinking about during the sitting is we are Mission Dharma. And of course, Mission Dharma arose in association with the San Francisco Mission District. That's where our in-person home was for the first 35 years of our Sangha. But now Mission Dharma is more in the spirit of what Mary was speaking about. Our mission is Dharma. Our mission is sharing the teaching, sharing the good news that in the midst of this intense world of stress, that there is within us a capacity in every moment for peace. So you could say it's Mission Dharma or a Dharma. This is a Dharma mission where people come here to not be regaled with missionary zeal about what you should believe, but more where you're invited to see for yourself, reminded to look for yourself, to celebrate your nature. Okay, we have some speakers that are, if you don't mind muting. So at this Dharma mission, we try to come into contact with, using our own immediate experience, our senses, our own environment, to test out, to cultivate not the faith that's built on belief, but the verified faith that comes from our immediate and direct experience. So we try to sense, what's it like here? What is it like in reality? Of course, there is some commentary about the world and skillful means and questions and answers, but the heart of the what liberates us, what really frees us, is to wake up, to, through our own senses, through our own direct experience of what do you find here? And all the methods of meditation are really in the service of emptying your mind of all your beliefs, your views, your expectations, your hopes, or at least noticing them as presently arising momentary experiences. But what do you find when you, moment to moment, empty your mind of the ideas of past and future? Or notice them. What happens when you orient yourself to real time? That means where you actually experience what I talked a lot about over the weekend, the non-historical. Generally, when I ask myself, when I ask others, what do you experience when the dust of memory is a little bit, has cleaned, your senses have been cleaned by a little more continuity of real-time attention? What I find when I'm free momentarily of ideas of past and future, I find that I'm aware. And I find that there is a fragrance to the experience of immediacy. And that fragrance is well, check it out. Don't see what it is for you. But for me, it's peace. For me, it's the sense of when I can remember, it's a sense of my body, mind just bathing in a peace that and ease that is completely impersonal, completely unconstructed, not created. It's just what's waiting. And I, as I say that, I hear the words of my teacher, Punjaji, who said, you need the past and thoughts to suffer. You don't need anything to be free. Because my mind, when it dwells in my notions of myself from the past, and all my beliefs, all my notions of how one should be and what you should think, and then I project that on the imagined future, when my mind is filled with those kinds of notions, it doesn't seem to be an obvious source of peace. But when I switch a little bit, when I just turn, like, oh, why would I want to turn? Why would I want to turn toward being aware? Toward just feeling the fragrance of being awake? Because it's delicious. And it's that deliciousness that most of us are waiting for, we're all hoping for, to be found through getting the worldly winds to blow in the right direction of praise, that relief that we feel when somebody sees us and praises us, or when we experience success. The relief that comes, the fleeting relief of success. The pleasure of gain, of accumulation, again, fleeting. So much of our life, though, spent waiting for this peace, because we associate it with conditions being the way we want them to turn out. All the while hiding in plain view, in plain sight, is the peace and ease that we're searching for. It's really the natural state of our mind. So the Dharma mission, or mission Dharma, the mission is Dharma, is for us together to really look to see whether what I'm saying is true. Look within the nature of your own mind. Look at your experience moment to moment. Not so much the idea of your experience, which is often in relationship to past, but what do you actually experience when you don't look ahead and you don't look back? You don't look sideways, you're just here. As Punjaji also says, freedom waits, but most are interested in something else. It's peace waits, but most are interested in something else. So as yogis, we have to remember that the source of peace is not found through the effort to get something, but is, as Gendon Rinpoche says, but is already present in open relaxation and letting ourselves be here. And then to let that attention strengthen enough so that we can actually see the ways that we hurt ourselves by waiting, by hoping, by falling into, by being entranced by what the poet Hafez called the counterfeit coins. I think tonight would be because I usually bring it along, that tonight would be a good night to read to you the poem from Hafez called Cast All Your Votes for Dancing, and then I'll got a few things to say about it. I know the voice of depression still calls to you. I know those habits that can ruin your life still send their invitations. But you are with the friend now. And when I say friend, I always translate that as you are with that quality of, you are with the Buddha, which Buddha means awake, that quality of wakefulness. But you are with the friend now, and you look so much stronger. You can stay that way and even bloom. Keep squeezing drops of the sun from your prayers and work and music, and from your companion's beautiful laughter. Keep squeezing drops of the sun from the sacred hands and glance of your beloved. I consider you all my beloveds. And my dear, from the most insignificant movements of your own holy body. Why do you think the Buddha said there's one thing, O monks, that leads to calm, to focus, to a pleasant dwelling in this very life, to the abandonment of the defilements of mind, to the sure heart's release, to liberation. What's the one thing? Mindfulness directed to the body, because body's here, calls us here. Even with all its limitations, with all its dukkha, it calls us here both as a teacher, but if we stay here long enough, it reveals that ever-present wakefulness and clarity that has the fragrance of peace and completeness. Anyway, I'm editorializing. You can stay that way and even bloom. Keep squeezing drops of the sun from the sacred hands and glance of your beloved, and my dear, from the most insignificant movements of your own holy body. Learn to recognize the counterfeit coins that may buy you just a moment of pleasure, but then drag you for days like a broken man behind a farting camel. You are with the friend now. Learn what actions of yours delight her, what actions of yours bring freedom and love. Whenever you say the Lord's name, dear pilgrim, my ears wish my head was missing, so they could finally kiss each other and applaud all your nourishing wisdom. Oh, keep squeezing drops of the sun from your prayers and work and music, and from your companion's beautiful laughter, and from the most insignificant movements of your own holy body. Now, sweet ones, be wise, cast all your votes for dancing. So the resilience that we need to accommodate this world of so much dukkha, so much stress, comes on one hand from being able to have a stability to meet the outer circumstances, but it's also, we need the stability to meet the inner circumstances. The inner circumstances, the inner notions about ourselves are where the real, to me, the most insidious counterfeit coins live. And that's the first one that I think of is the constant search. And what the Buddha taught, the root cause of stress is craving for sense pleasures, craving for becoming, craving for non-becoming, just some desire for things to be other than the way they are, that expresses itself in both in desire for sense pleasures, but also expresses itself as ill will and aversion, desire for others to be different than the way they are. So another counterfeit coin that's especially easy to fall into as a kind of thinking pattern during this time is, as what Sharon Salzberg described in her book, her original book on loving kindness, the tendency to become agents of revenge, to have our mind inclined toward ill will and frustration and hatred. I've talked a lot over the months about outrage and anger. But I thought tonight, just to hopefully add to that wake up about the counterfeit coins, that I would read from Sharon's book. It does a better job than I would do. She said, in a well-known phrase, the Buddha said, hatred never ceases by hatred. Hatred can only cease by love. This is an eternal love, an eternal law. We can begin to transcend the cycle of aversion. This is just the aversion is another form of craving. We can transcend the cycle of aversion when we can stop seeing ourselves personally as agents of revenge. Ultimately, all beings are the owners of their actions, their karma. If someone has caused harm, and a lot of people are thinking about this right now, if someone has caused harm, they will suffer. If we have caused harm, we will suffer. As the Buddha said in the Dhammapada, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you, as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you as your shadow, unshakable. Happiness and unhappiness depend on our actions. And in this case, I'm talking about specifically tonight, the actions of not just our body, but not just our speech, but our mind, the way we incline our mind, what we think about, what we frequently dwell upon. That does not mean that we sit back with glee thinking, you get yours in this life or the next. Rather, we understand that we do not have to be agents of revenge, that if people have caused suffering, they will suffer. This is an impersonal law affecting us as well. On the eve of his awakening, the Buddha, then known as the Bodhisattva, sat under the Bodhi tree, determined not to move until he attained enlightenment. Mara, the mythic figure in the Buddhist cosmology, the killer of virtue and the killer of life, recognizing that his kingdom of delusion was greatly jeopardized by the Buddha's aspirations to awaken, came with many different challenges. And I think maybe somewhere in this lifetime, you have made the aspiration to awaken. And doesn't mean that Mara means that Mara will actually more intensely come to visit. That was me, excuse me. Mara came with many different challenges, attempting to get the Buddha to give up his resolve. He challenged him through lust, through anger, and fear. These are all counterfeit coins. Fear refers to nothing real. It's just saying to ourselves that we are not whole. It's an idea. It's a lie. And it says that we need something to be happy. But really, it's quite the opposite. Real happiness is found, again, by open relaxation, letting go, staying here. So Mara challenged him through lust, anger, fear. He showered him with hailstorms, mudstorms, other travails. No matter what happened, the Bodhisattva sat serenely, unmoved and unswayed in his determination. The final challenge of Mara was self-doubt. He said to the Bodhisattva, "By what right do you have sitting there with that goal? What makes you think you have the right even to aspire to be enlightened, to complete awakening?" In response to the challenge, the Buddha reached over and touched the earth. He called upon the earth itself to bear witness to all the lifetimes in which he had practiced generosity, patience, and morality. Lifetime after lifetime, he had built a wave of moral force that had given him the right to that aspiration. Could go on, but the earth as our witness is our body is earth. You deserve to awaken. How do I know that? Because you're awake, because you have wakefulness, because we have what we call Buddha nature. But it's essential that we recognize Mara. We recognize the counterfeit coin. So the mistaken perception that if we can get to a place, we can find peace. That's an assault on the natural peace and ease that's already here. We think that we have to be agents of revenge and foment a kind of ill will. We cause unbelievable suffering, mostly to ourselves. I know I often share the line that someone sent to me about some spiritual teacher who said, anger is the punishment that we give ourselves for someone else's actions. And Prajnaparamita, the 27 verses on mind training, said, so sensitive an ecology is the interdependence of things, our connection with life, that the slightest attention or assistance to others creates moral elevation for ourselves and humanity, while the slightest indifference or neglect toward others creates moral harm for ourselves and our civilization. The faintest spark of ill will toward other beings can burst forth into a terrible forest fire, consuming vast expanses of sympathetic joy. So this impulse to purge our upset with revenge, with anger, with hostility, with ill will, with aversion, it's just Mara telling us that it's okay that we harm ourselves. It's not. Another counterfeit coin is, and this one is wrapped up in almost most of our thinking, counterfeit coin is, I guess the way I talk about it now is the whole case of mistaken identity. Talked about it a lot this weekend. Identifying with the story of ourselves. Not understanding that as beautiful as the story of ourselves is, the historical version, as wonderful a medium it is to connect with one another, a story of you is not you. And the story of us usually has at its core incompleteness, that we have come from the past, we're passing through on our way to a better me in the future. And what that counterfeit coin tells us is that we're not okay as we are, that we're not enough right now, that our salvation is in time, that maybe we'll get there. And so the number one counterfeit coin is a mistaken identity. And what goes along with that is the mistaken identity with time, with future, which does not exist as a thing or place, only as an idea. So to postpone, even for one moment, a sense of peace for how things turn out, to postpone for 1 minute, is to tell ourselves that we haven't arrived. How could you arrive any more than being a conscious being here in real time? What could possibly in future be any more reliable than the very nature of the very mind that you're now perceiving through on this call right now? Learn to recognize that counterfeit coin of time, of self, of idea of self, so that you find what we can easily call our real self, the beingness, the particularity of you here now, but not the historical experience of yourself, which is fine, but it's secondhand. But the living, indescribable beingness. That's our Dharma mission, both to remember that ourselves and to let that fragrance of peace grow, and so that just by virtue of being as you are, our world is affected by it. To me, it's a very compassionate offering to this world. Because it's, to me, the most compassionate thing you can do is be awake, wise. There was a quote that I don't want to look too far. Oh, yeah. This is from a Tibetan text. They who cling to the void and neglect compassion do not reach the highest stage. But they who practice only compassion do not gain release from the toils of existence. They who are strong in practice of both remain neither in samsara nor nirvana. But I once went to a Tibetan teacher that just sparked my memory. And he was recommending that I just rest in the nature of the mind, just be aware. Just be, you could say, be awareness. Be aware. And I said, well, shouldn't I do the other heart purification practices and arouse bodhicitta, the altruistic heart, awakening for the benefit of all beings? He said the highest compassion is to be awake, to be aware. So just do that. Because the expression of that is not greed and hatred and ignorance, being agents of revenge. The expression of that is openness, it's forgiveness, skillfulness. Anyway, I don't want to belabor it. But if we truly have that aspiration to be of benefit, don't underestimate the power, especially during this time where you see the examples of the three poisons. Our whole world is caught up in it: greed and hatred and delusion. Of course, we do see a lot of love and compassion. It's important that we don't forget that. But if we really want to fulfill our aspiration to, as Shantideva says, to become at all times, both now and forever, the protector of those without protection, guide for those who have lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a bridge for those with rivers to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those without light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need. What would be more useful than to realize, first things first, realize peace, so that your interactions with others, you're not in a state of need and wanting. Your ability to remember that everyone experiences the fruit of their actions. And we can remain like that little duck in that heaving ocean. What does the little duck do? When the ocean is heaving this way and that, the little duck sits down in it. He reposes in the immediate as if it were infinity, which it is. He eases himself into the boundless, right where it touches him. That's why we ease ourselves into the boundless, right in our immediate experience right now. We don't want to miss that. And I'll share once again, as a sharing of any blessings of our nurturing of this ever-present source of peace, any blessings from talking about it, goodness, we send in all directions, along with the sentiment of John O'Donohue's poem, for peace. As the fever of day calms toward twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along this holy mountain. May it be so, and may we start with not harming ourselves by going out in search, by remembering that peace and ease that is the peace and ease of our nature. May all beings be liberated. May we all cast our votes for dancing. Thanks for sticking around. Please feel free to unmute and say goodnight to each other. Thank you for